She isn't turning away from you because of your face, your height, or the words you chose. What she's stepping back from is the feeling she got from you. An energy that didn't stir her curiosity, didn't make her feel anchored, and didn't spark her interest. You might think you lost her because you weren't charming enough, or because you stumbled over a sentence. But the truth is, she felt something missing. She sensed hesitation, uncertainty, something that made her feel there was nothing solid to lean on. And that sensation is what pushed her away. From the way you approached, to the rhythm of your voice, to the shallow questions you asked that felt like you were waiting for her to steer the moment. It all left her carrying the weight of the interaction. Women rarely dismiss a man because of appearance alone. More often, it's because they detect, sometimes instantly, when a man doubts himself. In the moments before a real connection can even begin, that uncertainty kills the spark. Today, I want to pull back the curtain on the psychology most men never notice. The invisible reason they lose a woman's attention before the first few words are even finished. And how to transform that presence into something magnetic, steady, and impossible to ignore. Think about the first few seconds of your interactions. Many men begin with questions they believe are polite or friendly. How's your day? Where are you from? What do you do? They sound harmless, but to her, they fall flat. Not because she's offended, but because those words come with no current, no emotional texture. They're recycled lines she's heard dozens of times, often from men who were nervous, hoping she'd be the one to make things interesting. What's really happening is you're handing her the responsibility for carrying the connection. Without realizing it, you're saying, I don't have anything to offer yet, so I'm counting on you to make this work. Now put yourself in her shoes. Attractive women get approached constantly. They've heard the same question so often that they don't even need to think. They can feel whether the man in front of them is leading with presence or clinging to them for direction. When you start with a safe, empty line, she doesn't feel like she's stepping into your world. It's more like she's sitting through an interview, and interviews aren't romantic. Here's the shift most men never make. She isn't looking for someone to tiptoe around her approval. She wants a man already rooted in his own space, secure in himself, not waiting for permission to take up room. That kind of energy doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't need to ask for validation before being real. It simply exists, steady and grounded, and invites her into it. When you speak from that place, she feels it before you finish a sentence. This is why attraction is more about presence than words. She's not just hearing what you say. She's absorbing how you say it, your posture, your eyes, your pace, the subtle edge or calm in your tone. She's picking up on whether you can hold your ground if she challenges you, or if you'll shrink the moment something uncomfortable comes up. Even if she isn't aware of it, she's evaluating in seconds whether you carry the kind of certainty that makes her feel drawn in. If your tone carries the hidden plea of, I need you to like me, she feels it immediately, and the attraction starts dissolving. She doesn't need perfection. She needs to sense that you're steering the moment, that you're not hoping she'll make you feel worthy. When you open with hollow questions, she doesn't register genuine curiosity. She registers fear, and fear is the fastest way to make her check out. A woman's instinct for reading energy often works faster than her logic. Before she processes your words, she already knows whether you're standing tall in yourself or leaning on her for stability. Nervousness, neediness, and self-doubt send a signal she picks up instantly. And when that happens, Her desire fades without ceremony. The truth is, it's not about memorizing clever lines. It's about the energy flowing through those lines. If you show up hoping she'll carry you through, she'll walk away without a second thought. But if you arrive with your own current, if you lead your space effortlessly, she'll feel drawn into it before she even decides why. So how do you make this shift? It's surprisingly simple. Stop defaulting to questions. Start opening with something that creates a mood, something rooted in what you notice, what you feel. Most men lean on questions because they're unsure how else to begin. But questions, especially generic ones, reveal uncertainty. They hint that you're leaning on her for the next move. That's the opposite of what draws her in. Instead, lead with a statement. Offer something that paints a picture, sets the tone, shows a glimpse of the way you see the world. Take this contrast. How are you? Versus, this place feels like time forgot about it. Calm, quiet, like a pause button in the middle of the week. One is generic and weightless. The other builds an atmosphere. It tells her you notice things, that you're present, that you have a perspective worth stepping into. Once you've created that spark, you can follow up with something that includes her. Does the music hit you the same way? But now it's not a dry request for information. You've already opened the door to a shared moment, and she's stepping into it willingly. The difference between this and the usual approach is night and day. Women aren't looking for a man to hand them the reins in the first minute. They want to feel pulled into something that already has momentum. When your words, your voice, and your calm presence combine to create that, she leans forward. Her attention sharpens. She starts listening not because she's being polite, but because something about you feels rare. This doesn't mean trying to sound mysterious or acting like someone you're not. It's about speaking from your center, letting her feel the grounded presence you live in, and letting her curiosity grow naturally. When you do that, you're not competing for her attention. You're giving her something she wants to experience more of. The same principle applies when she challenges you or disagrees. Say you're in flow, things feel right, and then she says, "I'm not a fan of this place." Most men in that situation scramble to agree, thinking it'll keep things smooth. "Yeah, you're right. It's not great," they say, hoping to stay in her good graces. But what they're really doing is showing they'd rather give up their stance than risk a flicker of tension. What they don't see is that tension is not the enemy. When handled well, it's one of the most powerful tools for building attraction. Tension means there's emotional charge in the moment. It's what makes conversations feel alive. A man who knows this doesn't fold. He doesn't argue aggressively either. He stays rooted, curious, and unshaken. "Really? What's not working for you?" Or, "Interesting. I was just starting to like it. What would you change?" That way, you keep your perspective intact while inviting her to share hers. You're not trying to win her over by abandoning yourself. You're showing that you can disagree without losing composure. Handled like this, disagreement becomes playful, even intriguing. It makes her wonder more about you because you've shown you're not afraid to keep your own shape. That's where sparks come from. Not in making everything smooth, but in making the moments feel charged and real. The way you handle these charged moments is what separates forgettable encounters from the ones that leave an imprint. Too many men think they're protecting the connection by staying agreeable, by sanding down every edge. But what they're really doing is stripping all the flavor out of the moment. Smooth can be nice, but smooth can also be empty. A woman doesn't remember the conversations where nothing was at stake. She remembers the ones that had friction, surprise, something that made her feel more alive than she did a few minutes before. Think back to the conversations that have stayed with you the longest. They probably weren't the ones where both of you nodded and smiled politely. They were the ones where you disagreed, but still felt drawn closer, where someone challenged you, teased you, or pulled you into a moment that didn't follow the expected script. That's what stays in the mind. Moments where the energy had texture. When you can stand in that kind of moment without flinching, without getting defensive, and without surrendering your center, you create an emotional rhythm she wants to dance with. It's rare for a man to be calm and unshaken while also being playful and open. That combination of strength and ease is magnetic, and most men never learn to balance the two. This is why even a simple disagreement can be a gift. If she says, "I hate this song," the man who panics and immediately agrees has lost his frame. But the man who smiles and says, "You're tough to impress," I like that. What else doesn't make the cut for you? Turns it into a spark. Now she's laughing, she's thinking, and most importantly, she's feeling. The conversation just became an experience instead of a transaction. The skill is knowing how much pressure the moment can hold. Not every woman and not every situation calls for the same level of intensity. A man who truly understands attraction reads the atmosphere and adjusts without losing his core. If the woman is bold, outspoken, and quick-witted, she might thrive on fast banter and playful jabs. But if she's quiet, measured, and reserved, hitting her with high-energy teasing too soon can feel overwhelming. That doesn't mean you lose your presence. It means you adjust the way you deliver it. Instead of challenging her directly, you frame your words in a way that still shows strength but also offers warmth. "I like that you're clear about what you like," carries the same message as, "You're hard to impress." But the softer tone keeps her comfortable while still letting her know you're paying attention. This isn't about pretending to be someone else or playing a part. It's about having the awareness to meet someone where they are, while staying rooted in who you are. Presence without awareness come across as overbearing. Awareness without presence feels like weakness. The man who can blend the two moves through interactions with the kind of ease that women rarely encounter. One of the most common mistakes men make is dropping their presence once things start going well. At first, they're leading the energy, steering the moment, holding their ground. She's laughing, leaning in, giving subtle signs of interest. And then, somewhere along the way, he relaxes too much. The leadership fades, the focus drifts, and instead of continuing to create the moment, he starts trying to preserve it. That's when she begins to pull back. Maybe not physically at first, but emotionally. The spark dulls, the smiles fade quicker. She checks her phone or looks around the room. Something's shifted, and she can feel it. The reason is simple. The man switched from leading to holding on. The same energy that drew her in is the energy that has to keep showing up. Attraction isn't a one-time trick. It's a flame that cools quickly if it's not fed. Feeding it doesn't mean being on every second or forcing constant excitement. It means staying present, aware, and intentional. It means keeping the same grounded confidence you had at the start, even when you're comfortable. Women can sense when your confidence was just a performance to win them over. And when that performance drops, the trust in that energy drops with it. The men who leave a lasting impression are the ones whose energy doesn't collapse after they get a smile, a laugh, or a sign of interest. They don't lean back and think the work is over. They stay engaged, not in a needy way, but in a way that says, "This is who I am, whether you've just met me or known me for years." And that brings us to the real heart of this. The kind of man she actually craves. It's not the man who chases her approval, molding himself into whatever she seems to like in the moment. It's not the man who tries to impress her with constant compliments or stories designed to win points. It's not even the man who's the best looking in the room. It's the man who is already complete without her attention. The man whose life already has purpose, direction, and meaning. A man who respects himself enough not to bend into shapes that don't fit him just to be accepted. A man who can be generous with his attention without needing anything in return to feel valid. When you're that man, your words don't have to be perfect. You can make her feel safe without being predictable. You can be calm without being dull. You can be confident without being arrogant. That balance is intoxicating because it's real, and real is rare. Such a man doesn't talk just to fill silence. He speaks with intention, listens without losing his stance, and leads without dominating. He can invite her into something steady and alive without pushing or pulling. He's not playing for approval. He's building a connection worth being part of. This is why the quiet confidence of a man who knows himself is unforgettable. You can't fake it. You can't memorize it from a script. It's not about perfect lines. It's about the way you carry yourself through each moment. Steady, grounded, unshaken. So stop waiting for signals that you're good enough. Stop hoping the right sentence will win her over. Show up fully in who you are. Speak from a place that's rooted in your truth. Lead with calm presence and a steady current of energy that doesn't depend on her reaction to stay alive. Because once she feels that, once she senses your strength without arrogance and your interest without need, you stand in a category few men ever reach. And when you're there, no amount of small talk, flattery, or desperate attention from someone else can compete. You don't have to be flawless. You just have to be unshakably real. That's the man who doesn't beg for space in her world. He creates a world she wants to step into. That's the man she remembers. The man she tells her friends about. The man whose absence she notices when he's not there. You were never meant to plead for her focus. You were meant to be the source of it.